Good morning, everyone. Yeah, very good morning. Shall we begin the session? Yeah, due to my health issues, the class was suspended. Yeah, I have mailed you. Yeah, you got the mail, na, regarding that one. Yeah, due to my health problems, basically. Okay, so now let's begin with the next topic. That is a continuation of the last topic which we have discussed on 2nd of Jan. Yes. Yeah, last class. That is a beginning with the C++. One topic is left over here. That is a IOStream file dot or IOStream file. So this used with the hash directive. This used with the hash include directive that includes that tells the preprocessor to add the content of the IO stream that contains declaration for the identifier CL as well as the insertion operator that is being disclosed that is being used within an header file that is a iostream.h. This is the header file that must be included in the IO stream that must be introduced with the changes that have been developed. And this header file IOStream should be included at the beginning of all the programs that use the input-output statements. And note that the naming conventions for the header file may also vary, but some implementation also uses the iostream.hpp, that is other used with the iostream.hx6 that must include the appropriate header file that depends on the contents of the program and implementation. So the standards will be used with the list of the C++ standard library header file that may be needed in the C++ program. So this header file is used with the dot extension that must be included with the old style file which should be used with the old compilers also. So they have a versions, they have a different file, they must be used, that files must be used with the ANSI standard compilers. Yeah, these old style header files will be used as a content, as a purpose, as a new version. So this is the contains macros and information, that is a si.h. Then there's a C type that includes the functions, for example, two upper, two lower, that must be included in the C type.h. Then float.h containing the float size limits of the system. Then next is the limits.h contains the integral size limits. Math.h contains a function prototype for the math library function that it must be included with the CMath. Stdio.h that is used with the standard input-output that must contain the library functions and the information used by them. Then std library that must be used with the prototype that must be used with the conversion of the number to the text to the numbers, as well as the memory allocation like the alloc, calloc, as well as the utility functions. Then string.h, this must be included with the prototype for the C-style string processing functions. So that must be included with the time.h, that must be included with the manipulating the time and the date. So this IO stream will be used for the standard input output. Then IO manip that is also used with the manipulators. This prototype will be used as a stream manipulator for the stream buffer that enables the formatting of the stream of the data. Then fstream that performs the input from the files on the disk and the output to the files on the disk. Now these are the new header files that must be included in the ANSI C++, not in the C++ but in the ANSI C++. One is a utility that contains the classes and the function that are used for many standard library header files. Then vector, list, deck, queue. Then functional that contains the classes and the functions used by the algorithms of the standard library. Then memory that will be allocated to the standard library containers. Iterator for the manipulating of the data in the standard library. Algorithms, exception, string, string, local, limit, type info. These must be included within the classes, these must be included within the function that normally used by the stream processing to process the data. for different languages. That may be a monetary format, that may be a sorting strings, character presentation, and so on. And limit also contains a class for defining the numerical data limit or data type limits on each computation of each computer platform. That must be included with the type info, that must be included for the runtime type identification, that must exist with the execution time. Now next is the namespace that must be introduced within the NSI C++ committee. Now the next part is a namespace that must be included, that is a new concept in the C++. So this is the NSI C++ standard monitoring, that committee that will be used for the identifier that are used in a program. So one must be included, one must be written in the program that are used as a identifier, that are used as a namespace file that is used with the directives. So this is a using namespace std, where std is a namespace that is used with the NSI C++ standard class library that are defined. And that must be included in this directive, that must define all the identifier that is defined in the std to the current global scope, and using and the namespace are the new keywords of the C++. Next is the return type of the main. What is the main return type of this one? So when I use this main function, that must return something. So this is a return type that is included over here. The main returns an integer type value to the operating system. Therefore, every main in the C++ should end with the return statement. Otherwise, a warning or an error might occur. So for example, since main returns an integer type value, so the return type for the main is also explicitly specified as an int. And note that the default return type for all the functions in C++ is the integer. So yeah, by default all the functions return in the int. So following main will return and give a warning, because this will be included, this will be used as a warning method. Now more about the C++ statements. More about the C++ statements. So let us consider a slightly more C++ programs. Assume that we would like to read two numbers from the keyboard and to display their average on the screen. So please, C++ statements to accomplish this is used this one. This is hash include IOStream. This is the hash include name stream, the namespace stdio.h. Now next is the int main. Now let's see practically, if I have a practical one. There's a turbo C. No, that is not available with the turbo C. No, there is no software that is defined over here. That is a turbo C or the C++. So this is the hash include a namespace stdio.h. Then int main float number one, number two, sum, average. So there are four variables that is declared over here: number one, number two, sum, and the average. Now see out, enter the two numbers. So this will display as it is, that enter any two numbers that you want to share, that you want to ask. So this will be asked from the user that enter the two numbers. Now this is for the reading into the value, that is a C in number one, C in number two. So there are two values that will be stored in the memory. One is a number one is a number two. So this reads a number from the keyword. Then sum equals to number one plus number two. Now two values are added up over here. Two values are sum up over here. That is a number one plus number two. Addition will be done. Now the average is sum divided by 2. So C out sum, C out average. So there are two parts in this. One is enter the two numbers for this one, that is the number one and the number two. Then sum is given and the average is given, and at last we print the C out, that is the sum and the average. So the output is this one. This is enter the two numbers 6.5, 7.5. Sum is 14 because 6 plus 7, 13 plus 1, 14. Average is 14 divided by 2, that is a 7. Now, whatever the variable that we use, whatever the program we use, so as per this program, it uses the four variables: number one, number two, sum, and the average. So there are four parts over here. Yeah, four variables that is declared. Number one, number two are the two number that must be used, that must be given by the user, and the sum is that adds the two number and store in it. Average is the average that divides the sum by the two. Yeah, input operator, that is also known as the extraction or the get from operator. This operator will be used with the double right angle bracket, that is an input statement, and that causes the program to wait for the user to type in a number. So whatever the number that is typed, it is placed in the variable number form. And the identifier cin is a predefined object in C++ that corresponds to the standard input stream, that is that stream that represents a keyboard. Now, this also known as the extraction or the get from operator, that extracts the value, takes the value from the keyboard and assign it to the variable on the right. So this extracts the value. One is insert, that inserts the value, that prints the value. So there are two types of operators, extraction and the insertion operator. Now these two operators can be overloaded. Overloading means these two can be used more than once in the same line. That concept is known as cascading. This is the next topic, that is a cascading of the input-output operators, like this. First of all, we have printed within the double quote sum equals to, then the value of sum will be printed over here. So this first sends a string sum equals to the cout, then sends the value of the sum. Finally, it sends a new line to the next output while it will be in the next line. That means three extraction operators, three insertion operators will be used over here. Three parts will be done over here. One is for the sum equals to, one is the value of the sum, one is the slash n. So finally, it sends a new line character so that the next output will be on the next line. And the multiple use of insertion operator is known as cascade. So while cascading an output operator, we should ensure necessary blank spaces between different items. Because when we use the cascading technique, the last two statements can be combined as follows. Cout sum equals to sum, then average equals to average. That must be included, that must be given over here. Now the next part is, we can also combine within the same line. That is a cout sum equals to this, average equals to this. So this is the one statement that indicates, that provides two lines of output. If you want only one line of output, the statement will be sum equals to sum, average equals to average. So output will be sum 14, average is 7. We can also give in the same line, that is the cin number 1, number 2, that is from the left to the right. That is, if we key in two values, say 10 and 20, first of all the 10 will be assigned to the number 1, 20 will be assigned to the number 2. Now next concept is the example with the class. We take a class that includes the data members as well as the member functions. This is the IO stream using namespace std, class person, char name to 30, int age. So there are two data members over here, name that contains the 30 characters, and age that is of the int category. And in the public, there are two parts, get data and the display. So void get data void, void display void. Then the curly braces will be closed and the semicolon will be closed. Then void person, four dots, then get data void. So this is cout, enter the name, then name, enter age, age. So void person, get display, void, name is name, then age is age. This get data will be used to input the data, display will be used to showing of the data, displaying the data. Then next is the int main. So we have created one variable of the class, that is the person p. P is a variable of the person class. Then we call the function with the use of the dot operator, p.getData, p.display, then return 0. The enter the name Ravinder and the age is 30. Name Ravinder and the age 30. This will be used with a person that can read out more than one times, that can read out the new data as well of the type class. And this class definition, class person includes two basic types, items, and the two functions to operate on that. So these two functions are known as the member functions. And the main purpose that use the person to declare the variable of its type. That must be included, that must be done with a variable that is known as the object. So here P is an object of the type person, and these class objects are also used to invoke the function defined in that type because of the class. And more discuss more about these classes and the object will be discussed in the later on. Now this is the next structure of the C++ program. First is the hash include files, that is the IOStream and so on. Then the class declaration, class ABC, class person, whatever. Then the member function definitions. For example, this get data and the void data. These are the two display. These are the two functions that must be defined. Then the main function program. Main function program in the sense main part of the program, that is the int main. Now it is a common practice to organize the program into three separate files. These three class declarations are placed in a header file and the definitions of the member functions go into the another file. This approach enables the programmer to separate the abstract specification of the interface from the implementation detail, that is the member function definition. And finally, the main program that uses the class is placed in a third file that includes two files as well as another file that is required. There is a member function, there is a class definition, main function program. And this approach is also used or based on the concept of the client-server model. Client requests the services from the server provides the services to the client. This definition includes a member function that constitutes the server that provides services to the main program that is known as the client. So like C++ or the C program, C++ programs can be created using any text editor. So in the Unix, this text editor will be used for creating and editing the source code. That will be used with integrating or developing the environment for developing and editing the programs. And next is how to compile and how to link. Compilation is done by the Alt F9 with the use of the extension .c. This Turbo C++ will be used with a program development environment that will be used under MS2. Now this is a summary. C++ is a superset of the C language, advanced part of the C language. So C++ adds the number of object-oriented features such as the object inheritance, function overloading, and operator overloading to the C. So these features enable the building of the program with clarity, extensibility, and the ease of maintenance. These are the full-fledged the program function that will be operated. And C++ can be used to build a variety of systems such as editors, compilers, databases, communication system, and many more complex real-life application systems. Next, C++ supports interactive input and output features and introduces a new comment, that is a double slash, that can be used for the single line comments. It can also support the C style comments. This execution in the C++ program, execution begins with the main function and ends with the return statement. The header file IOStream should be included at the beginning of all the programs such as input-output operations. And our entire C++ program must include using namespace std directory. that must contain four basic sections, namely include file section, class declaration section, member function section, and the main function section. These are created using any text editor, that may be a WordPad, that may be a Notepad, that may be any text editor. Now the next part is the tokens that I'm going to take in the next class, that is in the tomorrow's class. So what are the tokens? How it is beneficial in the programming or C++ programming. So till now, any doubts, any clarification that you want to ask? Anything that you want to ask from the C++? Yeah, these clarifications will be used as the token expressions and the control structures. So these are done within the globe, these are done within the environments. So if there is any clarification, you can ask the doubts. And then the next class, that is in the tomorrow's class, I'm going to take the next topic, that is the tokens in the C++. Yes, yeah, tell me. In C++, it yeah, it is basically a programming language that is advanced part of C. Yeah, this language has been phased out, I agree, but there are so many, we can say, the basics that must be available in the C++, because if you're going to study the ASP.NET or anything C Sharp, so this is the base of the each and every language, because each and every OOPS concepts are introduced in the C++. Because